That was Sam Kennedy on Thursday of last week. I think that clip has actually aged okay for Sam. I was infuriated by that in real time.
Yeah.
And you got to remember what it was. It was coming off a series win against the Reds where they blew that last game in just horrific fashion, like a little league plays defensively. They blew a 3-0 lead.
Can't even be happy about a series win because of the way it ended. Right.
And so the next day he comes in and he starts the answer okay. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, we're going to be looking to add, but let's be realistic about it. We got to start winning series. We got to get back to 500.
Okay.
And then this series happened.
They surpassed 500.
They won a series. They're back over 500. And so that aged a little bit better than hearing it in real time. But that tells you the Red Sox are not committed to adding at this deadline. And even so, let's say they keep winning series, and let's say they're over 500 and they're in the mix for a playoff spot. How are they going to add? Would be my question. Is it going to be like last year?
I hope not.
I've done a lot of Breslow defending. I mean, they technically...
Danny Jansen.
They technically added last year, technically.
I mean, they bodies.
But... is that what they mean when they say, well, if we start winning series, we're going to add, or are they really going to add in a big way? And I don't expect them to take on a lot of salary, Keefe. I'm not even holding them to that. That'd be great if they did.
Should.
But I'm not even holding them to that.
Right, just players that can help.
Are they going to add players that can help, or are they going to spackle it together like they did last year? Like, what does he actually mean if they even remain at the bar he discussed last week?
Well, unfortunately, it feels like it's going to depend on what their models tell them, like what their stats tell them, and it's whatever their playoff probabilities are and this, that, and the other. Like, that's what they're going to be looking at. And because both Sam Kennedy and Craig Breslow, when asked about this, they're going to say they always leave themselves an out. Like, we're gonna look to improve the club, right? So, like, that's so open that it could be that's James Paxton. That improves the club, and you're like, we didn't have him before, now we have another starter. It's like, or you're going to be really aggressive and go out there and get like Marcelo Suna, or you're going to get like somebody like that like really addresses a need. Maybe you're even a little bit more uncomfortable. Like, they didn't get uncomfortable with any of the moves they made last year in season. They did probably a little bit this offseason, even though it looks like a no-brainer to get Garrett Crochet. It probably took them a minute to be like, all right, we're trading Kyle Teal, because Kyle Teal was one of their top prospects.
Let me put it to you like this, and this is why I am pro Breslow. Bloom wouldn't have made that deal.
No, he definitely would not have
Bloom would not have traded Kyle Teal for a guy like Crochet, and I find that to be encouraging. He traded Nick York a year ago, which was once a highly touted prospect.
Yeah.
You know, they traded him for Priester, who then they flipped. But
who's actually pretty good.
I think he's shown a willingness to move prospects. And so, look, I'm not asking you to take on the full money back for Rafael Devers, a player with term and everything. Are you going to add some players that help if you're at the bar that Kennedy said? Back over 500 and winning series. You're back there. That's what you should be doing.
Plus, although right now you'd mentioned they're 2.5 out of the wild card, and that just feels like deja vu to the last 4 years, where whether they were overachieving, underachieving, or playing like you thought, they were always like 2 games out around the All-Star break and then around the deadline. And obviously Chaim Bloom didn't really make any significant moves. In fact, if anything, the one year he traded away their starting catcher, which seemed like a head scratcher at the time, and then kept guys like Bogarts and Martinez and whatever else. Breslow makes a move or a few moves last year, but nothing of real consequence. One thing that I think is important too, over this last week, some of the other teams around them have been losing. So even though they're 2.5 out, they are the next team in line.
Yeah.
So that I would think would play into their charts and their graphs, where it's like, right now you need to chase down Seattle. It's not, but also chase down
3 or 4 other teams.
No, like you're the next team there. So if any team, like if you were just looking at the standings, American League or National League, and you blocked out what the teams were, and you saw this team, a game over 500, 2.5 out, that's a buyer. That would be a buyer, at least how I would go about it.
That's what it should be. You don't know with this organization
with this team,
these days, but
you're
that's
definitely
what it
not
should
convinced,
be.
But you're like, this team absolutely should be. They fit the criteria, and you hope it's not the old cliche, well, Alex Bregman's like the pickup.
That's what I'm afraid of.
That sucks. And
I'm
that
afraid of that
all the time.
Because, and specific to this team, I could see themselves doing it. Yoshida's coming back, and we have Harrison in AAA.
First baseman over there.
And we just
got a little first baseman.
Real little.
He's a littler first baseman. That was one of the names we brought up, remember?
Well, you brought up.
I did.
And then you backed away from it
real quick. I ran away because
he's
a tiny little guy. But how tiny he was.
But you could see them saying, well, Christian Campbell is going to come back, and Harrison's in AAA, and Hicks just came back, and Abreu just came back, and Harrison's on the way, and we just got Bregman back. I could see them doing that.
I know.
That's not acceptable.
Nope, that doesn't count.
That's not acceptable.
Nope.
Those are not ads.
Players that are not currently on the roster is what they need to do, or what they need to acquire.
If you are following any of the news, though, around the sport, it sounds like they're going to go the other way. Duran's name,
great,
coming back up. This was yesterday from Bob Nightingale. There's more reporting today from Jason Stark. He had a bunch of deadline updates. He said Jarren Duran is still seen as a strong San Diego Padres target, is what Bob Nightingale said. Jason Stark today says there are many teams that believe Jarren Duran is, quote-unquote, the most likely of those players in the outfield to change teams. He had a group of names that came up when he spoke to a series of executives around baseball. The feeling, according to Jason Stark, is that the Red Sox don't need to sell, quote-unquote, as much as they need to reconfigure the roster. So this is my line with Duran.
Yeah.
If you're shipping out Duran so that your outfield can be however you play them, I would imagine Roman Anthony in left, Cedon Rafaela in center, and Wilyer Abreu in right. You ship off Duran for real pitching help, like impact pitching help behind Garrett Crochet. That to me isn't selling. That's not trading Duran for prospects. That would be selling. That's trying to reconfigure the roster. Depending on who the return is, TwitchStat is saying Alcantara from the Marlins. Is he pitching better? I know he had a rough start, but I think he's had some better starts mixed in there. Maybe that's a name. Maybe the Seattle names we brought up before. I could be talked into that. I don't want to deal him just to deal him, but if you're talking about reconfiguring the roster to make it fit, that's part of why I was okay with dealing Devers. The roster wasn't working. He was clogging it up, and he was a bad teammate on top of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Duran's a good or a bad teammate, but if you're talking about making the roster fit together better, and balancing out your outfield logjam to help your pitching, okay, I can be talked into that.
So what's more likely, Jarren Duran is going to turn back into the Jarren Duran from last year, or you get a player for him that really helps? Because, like, what if they were like, hey,
I would say the first thing. I would say it's more likely he turns into, if not
he
Duran.
was a top 10 MVP candidate. So, like, that guy I don't really want to trade.
Let me tweak your question.
Yeah.
How about the 23 Duran? Like, can he morph back into that? Maybe not last year. Maybe last year is the peak. But can he be what he was in 23 before he got hurt?
Yeah,
that was a really productive everyday player.
Because, like, when he was your automatic leadoff hitter, no doubt about it, leadoff hitter, and good in the field, whether he was in center or left, when he was that guy, there's not too many guys that you would want to even trade him for. Plus, he's cheap. So if you want to play that side of it, where you're like the Red Sox are so worried about the money they're spending, that was a cheap all-star. Now, this year, not an all-star, maybe an average player.
Maybe. He's
maybe below average. Yeah.
255 with a 728 OPS.
No, and he stinks in the outfield, and he's getting thrown out in the bases.
This is the real, to me, okay, if he's still playing good defense and running the bases well and creating havoc, you just need him to turn it around at the plate a little bit. I feel like Duran needs to turn it around on the bases, in the field, at the plate, the whole thing. You see their lineup yesterday, Keefe? I know they won.
Yeah, was that Nate Eaton?
Nate Eaton leading off.
Yeah, I don't love that.
It's a lefty. I get it.
Okay.
But I don't know. Now Nate Eaton's leading off and you're dropping Duran down to 6th?
I say Duran last year, if it wasn't for what he yelled at a fan, would have played all 162 games as your leadoff hitter and as like one of the most electric players in baseball. And now you're like, I don't know. Let's move him down in the order. Like,
make some room for Nate Eaton.
Right. And he has no power. Like, his power's gone. He had some power last year. And that has disappeared. So, yeah, he's pretty frustrating. But then what if they're like, oh, they traded him to San Diego and they got, Nick Pivetta back?
I would hate it.
I'd be like, what?
I would hate that.
And he's having a good year.
He is. But
that'd be insane.
He wouldn't hear.
Michael King is on the Padres, but he's hurt right now.
Darvish. Who else?
Dylan Cease.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so maybe.
But he has not been very good.
I don't feel like I want any of those guys, but let me dig in on those
Randy
numbers
Vasquez.
more. Who's that? That's a pitcher?
Yeah, he's having a good year. 3.79 ERA.
Okay.
26-year-old righty.
Again, Pivetta has good numbers
6
there.
165? What is that guy?
It's a wee little guy.
I'll tell you what,
Pony
it's
of the
not.
week?
Not Haas of the week.
Not Haas of the week. That guy's tiny.
Yeah.
165 at 6 foot?
I just learned about him. I'm out. I'm not
Don't want him.
No, Jarren Duran's bigger than him.
Jarren Duran is
Jarren
bigger
Duran
than
is
him.
more of a hoss than that guy.
Oh, way more. He could out-wrestle him, no problem. I don't want
So,
that guy.
look.
Yeah, so like the Padres, would there be a third team involved? Because I don't even know if there's a direct player off the pitcher off the Padres. I'd take Manny Machado back, but like I don't think there's a pitcher on the Padres that would make sense in a Jarren Duran trade.
So again, that one's a gray area. But I don't want them to be selling. I'd like them to be buying.
Yeah.
Are they buying like they bought last year at the trade deadline? They should go stronger than
Barely
that.
counts.
And I will not tolerate. And Keith, you're right to expect it and brace for it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tolerate, well, we just got Bregman back and we just got Yoshida back and we have Campbell and Harrison in AAA and Hicks just got here, and who else am I missing? Like, all of a sudden we have all these players on the team, and we actually already have additions. We don't need to make any trades because all these guys came back. I'm not going to accept it, but I would brace for that. It's completely fair based on their track record to be a little hurt by the Red Sox and not expect anything big here.
Yeah.
I do think Sam Kennedy's answer, let's hold him to that.
Okay.
Winning series and above 500. You got the Rockies, the worst team, not just in baseball this year, one of the worst for half the season in baseball history. So you should fatten up on this team going into what feels like a massive series against Tampa, going into the All-Star break.